This video is my Bellator 149 review. I'll only be reviewing the two main events that happened at the end of the show. The last two final fights of Bellator 149, that is what I will be reviewing. The other fights, some were good. One of them had Mike Tyson on commentary. That was pretty entertaining to hear Mike Tyson just go crazy and talk about anything. The guy started, when the knockout happened, at the end, Mike Tyson started making sound effects with his mouth and noises with his mouth. To me, it sounded like video game sound effects. And I thought, what is Mike Tyson doing? Why is he making Mike Tyson punch out sound effects? But it was pretty funny at the end of that fight. It was pretty entertaining. And a lot of people thought Mike Tyson was pretty entertaining on commentary. I had a lot of people tweeting me that they enjoyed Mike Tyson better than some of the fights. And I'm not saying the other fights were bad. They weren't. They have a lot of Bellator. MMA has a lot of good young fighters. They just signed Ben Henderson. The guy's in his prime. He's a top MMA fighter. He just signed with Bellator as a free agent. He left the UFC. I guess he didn't like UFC's offer or Bellator. I'm pretty sure Bellator paid up and gave him more money than UFC was offering. So you go with the company basically that is going to pay you the most for your services, in my opinion. So now Kimbo, after Mike Tyson made his funny sound effects with his on commentary, which were pretty funny, reminded me of Mike Tyson punch out Nintendo game sound effects. That was pretty funny. That Mike Tyson just made sound effects after he saw the knockout. It was pretty funny. Anyways, now on to the first main event of the night that Bellator really pushed hard. Is one of the main events. They promoted it a lot in the past 1 or 2, 3 weeks on Spike TV. Last week they had specials where Ken and Hoist were talking about each other in their fight, and Kimbo and Dada were talking about each other last week. So they did like a preview show on Bellator 149. At least, I think it was 149. I'm pretty sure it was. So, Dada Kimbo, first round was okay, not very good. Kimbo fell on, basically, Dada just, Kimbo took him down. He got the first takedown of the fight, took down Dada, was on top of him. Should have started grounding and pounding him and beating his ass when he's on top of him, laying in punches to the ribs and face, but no. Dada was grabbing Kimbo, and Kimbo was just hugging him around the head. That is pretty lame. Well, then the referee, Big John McCarthy, stood them both up. So then it was time for stand-up and time for some boxing again. And the fans were really booing, started really booing when Kimbo was just laying on top of Dada and not really doing anything. Fans didn't like that. I'm sure they paid good money to go to Bellator and see a knockout, or at least see Kimbo and Dada stand up and fight and box the entire fight, not lay on the ground on top of each other like they were trying to fuck each other. Anyways, this first round, as I said, was okay. Then we go to the second round of Dada Kimbo. It got a lot worse. After the first round, it became unwatchable. I still kept watching because I wanted to see if somebody wanted to win the damn fight, and if somebody was going to knock one of them, each other out. So I kept watching, hoping, praying, wishing that one of them would fucking do something and instead of being blown up and tired as hell. And both of them were out of shape. Obviously, they didn't do enough cardio. They both got really blown up where they couldn't even punch. They had no power to their punches. Kimbo started, second round, Kimbo started throwing punches like this. Slow motion style. It wasn't slow motion, it was real life. It was the fight. And Kimbo was throwing punches that were slow as hell. A 5-year-old could throw faster punches than Kimbo was throwing. He was going like this. Not even that fast. Really slow, like he wasn't even close to connecting on Dada. He might have hit him once or twice or 3 times. Anyways, if he did connect, it looked pathetic. The fight was pathetic. Dada and Kimbo, second round was pathetic. It was almost unwatchable, almost put me to sleep. Now we go on to the third round. Yes, it did go 3 rounds. I wish it did not, but it did go 3 rounds. And that was a bad idea because both guys were already blowing the fuck up. They couldn't breathe, they couldn't fight anymore. They could barely stand. Both of them looked drunk, like they wanted to lay down and take a nap. Neither Kimbo or Dada could hardly stand. Third round was awful. It was god awful. Thank God it ended. The only reason I'm not pissed more that this fight was so bad because it was not on pay-per-view. If I would have been watching it on pay-per-view and ordered it, well, then I would have been very angry because Kimbo and Dada, after the first round, they had no energy and they didn't even try. Neither of them tried to win the fight. They both looked dead tired. They both looked like they were going to die of heart attacks. They're both out of shape. And they both, after the first round, both of their teams should have threw the towels in. And they both should have gave up and both quit. And the match should have been a draw, my opinion. Because it was god-awful. I'm not joking. I've seen hundreds of MMA fights. I've been watching MMA since like 1996, 97. So, but I haven't watched every single year like a big time fan. I do not watch, I mean I do watch MMA every year, but I do not watch every event and every fight. I'm not that big of a fan of MMA where I have to see every event like I do with wrestling. Anyways, Kimbo, Dada, in 20 years of watching MMA fights, from back in the day, 20 years ago when I used to rent them from Blockbuster on VHS, UFC pay-per-views and then later on, into the 2000s, I even watched, what was that company, MMA company's name? It had Mauro Ranallo work for them. Elite, I think they're on Showtime at the time. And Goldberg, the former wrestler Goldberg, was even a commentator for Elite Combat Extreme. They were an MMA company. They had a lot of good talent. They had Gina Carano. I think that's how you say her last name. Anyways, she's a hot chick. Now she's in movies. Or has a movie career, kind of. At least she's getting paid from being in movies, so good for her. I'm happy for her. Gina Carano, big MMA star, like 10 years ago when she was fighting. And she was the face back then of women's MMA, was Gina Carano. She fought for Elite Combat Extreme, and then they folded and they went out of business. And I think somebody might have gave them a name change, or some new person bought them. And then Elite Combat Extreme became Strike Force. And Gina Carano was still in Strike Force. And then they got some newer talent. They had, I believe, Robbie Lawler. They got Kimbo Slice for a couple fights. And they had other guys that I can't remember. Anyways, so Strike Force. So why did I bring up Strike Force and Elite Combat Extreme? I don't even know why I brought them up. Oh, I brought them up because I watched them. They were MMA companies, and I watched some of them in the early 2000s. So, or 10 years ago when they were around. So I've seen, as I said, I've seen hundreds of MMA fights. Tonight, Bellator 149. I'm not blaming the company Bellator MMA. I'm not blaming them because you can't blame them for what we saw tonight. They didn't know Kimbo and Dada were going to be so goddamn out of shape and be blown up when the second round started. They were blown up when the first round was going on. Right before the first round ended, Dada and Kimbo were still getting blown up. And they were basically about to die of a heart attack and fall over and take a nap. So, this fight, Kimbo, Dada, on Spike TV, Bellator 149, Kimbo, Dada 5000. That was the worst MMA fight I've ever seen in my life. You can't even say it was fixed because they weren't even trying. If they wanted to fix it, it would have probably ended in a better way. And it would have ended in a knockout. And then whoever got knocked out probably would have got a big payday for agreeing to get knocked out. And I do believe probably some fights in the past, I'm not sure, but my guess is some MMA fights in the past have been fixed because guys get knocked out in like 4 seconds. I don't know how that's possible. It is possible, but it's just, it makes me think too much that some fights probably are fixed and both guys get paid the same and get paid big amounts of money to just make the fight a work. Like pro wrestling is a work before they go in the ring because they know the outcome. But seriously, I'm not joking. If you don't believe me, try to find Kimbo Dada 5000 fight from Bellator 149. Try to find it on YouTube, and you will probably agree with me that it was the worst MMA fight you've ever seen. It was the worst MMA fight I've ever seen. The finish was, third round, Dada 5000 kept bouncing, moving backwards, bouncing off the cage, and moving forward like this. And then Kimbo was trying to punch him like this with no energy. Kimbo looked like he was going to drop dead, and Dada wouldn't even put his hands up to protect himself. Kimbo might have hit him once or twice, and then he went back against the cage, went forward, got hit like a rock'em sock'em robot, which it looked, at the end of the third round, looked really phony and really just set up and just too fake. Because how he fell, it just looked too phony. But whatever, I don't care. If it was fixed, I don't really care. But it was one of the worst MMA fights I've ever seen. Now, then Dada came out to the middle of the cage before the third round, before it ended, came out and basically went leaning, his entire front of his body started leaning on Kimbo, like he couldn't even stand anymore. It was pathetic. And then Kimbo might have swung once and like tapped him. And then Dada, oh my god, this was unreal watching it. It didn't even look real. Dada, when he got tapped after leaning up against Kimbo, I don't even know if he got tapped. It was so bad I forgot. Anyways, he was leaning up against Kimbo, and then he starts falling backwards on his own. stumbling backwards, and then he falls on his face down to the mat, which it looked so phony, and it just looked like a drunk that was stumbling and fell on his face because he was too drunk to stand anymore. That's what Dada 5000 looked like at the end, a drunk that could not stand on his own 2 feet anymore. So then the fight ends. After he falls on his face, they end the fight and Kimbo wins. Well, Kimbo and Dada, neither of them should have won because they were both pretty pathetic in it. But Kimbo did have a takedown in the first round, so I guess the judges could give him points for that and say he would have won anyway. But that fight was the absolute worst I've ever seen in any MMA company. I'm talking about Pride, Strikeforce, Elite Combat Extreme, WEC. I think they were a small company that, and then UFC bought them. I think they were called WEC. Strikeforce, I already said them. Bellator, UFC, King of the Cage, I've seen. And Dada versus Kimbo in 2016 at Bellator 149 was the worst MMA fight in the history of MMA, my opinion. Now on to the second main event of the night. It was Ken Shamrock going against Royce Gracie for the 3rd time in their careers. Both are legends, no doubt about it. Both are pioneers of MMA because I believe they were in the finals of the very first UFC pay-per-view, UFC #1. I believe they were in the finals against each other. And Ken Shamrock got locked in an ankle lock, and he had to tap out. And Ken Shamrock blamed that he couldn't wear shoes. That's why he lost. And he also blamed the first or second fight. He blamed that Royce Gracie would have beat him if Royce wasn't wearing his gi. But whatever. Second fight, nobody won, because there were no judges. So I guess nobody won, but Royce Gracie's putting his arms up, people were cheering him like he won. Well, you could say the second fight, Ken Shamrock also won, because he got a couple good shots in Royce Gracie, and Royce didn't do that much in the second fight, but lay on his back, if I remember right. I haven't watched it in years, but I'm pretty sure Royce was laying on his back most of the fight, and Ken was on top of him, and Ken got a couple big shots in on him. But whatever, there were no judges, there was no scorecard, so I guess it was a draw. But a lot of people say Royce Gracie won the second fight. Now to tonight, their third fight. Pretty sure this is their final fight. I don't think they'll fight again, but the ending was pretty lame, pretty disappointing in my opinion. I was disappointed by it because it ended so quick in the first round. They start off, Ken Shamrock going like this, going around in a circle, following Royce with his hands up. Royce threw maybe 4 kicks that connected on Ken Shamrock's legs. Maybe 4 or 5 kicks, and Ken then would do nothing. He kept following him with his hands up. And then Ken tried to punch him, but he didn't connect. Royce ducked or moved out of the way. So Ken, for the first probably 1 or 2 minutes, Ken did not do anything. And Royce, as I said, threw some kicks. And then the end comes where I did not see the low blow, but Royce Gracie did connect with a low blow with a knee to the groin. So first, they showed the replay many times after the fight, but I didn't see him hit Ken in the groin, but he did. It was obvious. It was on camera, it was on replay after the fight. So he hits Ken in the groin. Ken Shamrock did not react at first, and then Royce grabs him by his head, gives him a knee to the jaw. Pretty vicious knee to the head and jaw. and face. And then Ken, after that knee, then Ken starts grabbing his groin because he probably started feeling the pain in his groin or wherever he was hit. I don't know if he had a cup on or not. Maybe he didn't because he reacted like he's in a lot of pain. Anyways, after the knee's connected to the face, after the groin, low blow, knee to Ken's groin. After the knee to the face, Ken starts grabbing his groin, falls to the mat, holding his groin, holding his lower part of his stomach like he's in a lot of pain. I didn't know if he's holding his groin or stomach. One of the two he was holding. And he falls to the mat, and then he's yelling, and he looks like this, and he's yelling at the ref, like, or he's not yelling yet. Hoist Gracie jumps on top of him, starts hitting him in the face, rapid punches to the face, rapid fire punches to the face, side of the head, side of the face, whatever you want to call it, side of the skull, hitting him in his brain. So the young stupid referee, I'm not saying he's stupid for stopping it, but he didn't see the low blow. I've never seen this ref before in my life. The referee, in my opinion, should have been Big John McCarthy, but he wasn't. So the ref stops it after Hoist drills Ken with a lot of punches to the face. Ref stops it, and then right after the ref stopped it, Ken was pissed, and Ken was on the ground yelling at him, swearing at him, cussing at him, saying he hit me in the groin, he hit me low. And the ref did not even see it and did not even break up after. If he would have saw Hoist Gracie hit the low blow, the ref could have broke it up, and they could have started over. And he could have gave Ken a 1 minute rest, period. Because Ken, after getting hit in the groin, he deserved to get a rest. And the ref should have saw that and broke it up. But I blame the referee. He was a young, stupid, fucking idiot. And I hope that ref never works in MMA again, but I'm sure he will. So, after the fight ends, it's over. They're not going to restart it. They start showing a replay, and then the announcers, commentators are saying, we did not see the low blow. What is Ken talking about? And then Ken gets up on his feet, and he's yelling at Hoist Gracie. He said, you gave me a cheap shot. You gave me a cheap shot. Ken is pissed off, and he has every right to be pissed off because he was hit with a low blow. Then they finally get the video, and they show the low blow. They get the footage somehow. They didn't have the footage the first time. They showed the knee to the face. Then they show the knee to the groin. And then the commentators say, we apologize to Ken. We apologize. That is a low blow. We didn't see it because we didn't have the replay footage yet. So then they show the low blow. I'm sure, I don't know if it was an accident. It probably was an accident. I'll say it was an accident because I don't think Hoist Gracie is a dirty fighter. I don't think he ever was a dirty fighter in his career. So I'll give Hoist the benefit of the doubt that it was an accident. That the low blow was an accident. Probably meaned to knee Ken in the ribs and the stomach, but he got his groin. Hoist Gracie has very long legs, so his knee went to the groin instead of the ribs. And Ken is a lot shorter than Hoist Gracie is. So the fight's over. Ken Shamrock is interviewed and says how disappointed he is, that he really wanted to win this one really bad, and he's really disappointed that he let himself down, and he's just really disappointed on the outcome. And then after the fight, then Hoist Gracie goes up to Ken, gives him a fist bump, and they start talking, and they hug each other and embrace. That was nice to see. They embrace, and Hoist and Ken are talking in each other's ear. and giving each other respect. Finally, they're both MMA pioneers, they're both MMA legends. They should both respect each other, in my opinion. But there was bad blood before this fight. Maybe the bad blood was just all show, because Bellator likes to, and a lot of MMA likes to just put on shows to get people to watch, like pro wrestling. So maybe Ken and Royce Gracie, their hatred for each other, maybe that was just all a show to get people to watch, to get Bellator 149 good ratings. I'm sure UFC does the same thing. They have fighters argue and act like they hate each other, and backstage they're probably really good friends and respect each other. But they all do that because they take a page. In my opinion, MMA is always taking a page out of pro wrestling, or pro wrestling's book. They're always taking a page out of it. So, final thoughts on Bellator 149. Kimbo, Dada. It was disappointing and a fucking disgrace. Worst MMA fight ever. Ken, Shamrock, Royce Gracie. I wish it would have went longer into the second round, and I wish Ken would have won, but he did not. I think Ken Shamrock, I think he's done. I think he is done as an MMA fighter, because in the beginning of the fight, he did nothing. He just stood there like this, following Royce Gracie around. He tried to swing at him, but he missed. I'm sure Ken doesn't want to retire, but he should probably think about it after tonight's fight, because he lost so quick. And it wasn't Ken's fault that he got kneed in the groin. I'm sure that hurt like a motherfucker. I mean, maybe Ken could win another fight. Whoever he fights, if he decides to fight anybody next, maybe Shamrock could win one more fight before he retires. But I think he's 51 years old right now. I don't see who Bellator would put Ken Shamrock in another fight with. I don't see him fighting anybody in their 30s, because the guy in their 30s would probably beat Ken. So, Bellator 149, other than Kimbo and Dada, that disgrace of a fight, that joke of a fight, both were blown up and had no business in the cage during the first round. They were already blown up. Other than that, I enjoyed Bellator 149. I guess they're having another Bellator on Spike next Friday. I'll probably watch, because nothing else is on Fridays. If I'm home on Fridays, when I'm usually home, nothing much is on Fridays except, well, Bellator. I'll watch Bellator if they're on. If Bellator is not on, I usually watch Shark Tank or 2020, something like that. Something like that. Anyways, you people don't care what I watch Fridays. Anyway, I was just saying, if Bellator is not on, I usually watch Shark Tank in the news. So, or WWE Network, whenever there's nothing to do or nothing on TV that interests me. Final thoughts, Bellator. If I give it a rating 1 to 10, I'd say the event was a 7 or a 6.5. I would say 6.5. It wasn't a bad show. I mean, I don't really watch much UFC at all, so I can't really compare Bellator to UFC. I'm sure UFC's better and has a lot of better fighters, but now Bellator has Ben Henderson, so maybe they'll start getting better. And I'm glad Bellator took Ben Henderson from UFC, because now UFC can have some damn competition. And UFC doesn't have to be the bully in town and the only game in town. So, what was I going to say? One more thing about... I can't remember what else I was going to say. doesn't really... Oh yeah, UFC, I'll be watching their pay-per-view. I think it's in March, where Holly Holm is fighting Miesha Tate. I'll be watching that pay-per-view and live tweeting it, and I'll do a predictions and a review on the next UFC pay-per-view. The Holly Holm Miesha Tate pay-per-view fight. I think it's in March. I don't think it's in February. I think it's in March. So I'll be reviewing that pay-per-view and previewing it, or predictions for it. And then there's another one in April, I believe it's in April, UFC, where Daniel Cormier is fighting John Jones. John's Bones Jones against Daniel Cormier for Cormier's title that he has, because John Jones has been gone. He's in rehab after he really fucked up and got in a car accident and hit another car and then ran away and was busted for failing drug tests. I believe he had cocaine in his system. And then UFC suspended him, I think, for a year, or close to a year. Whatever. John Jones against Daniel. That will be a pretty damn good fight to see. I want to see that fight. And I want to see Holly Holm against Miesha Tate. I'm really interested to see that fight. So those are the next shows I'll be predicting and reviewing. Is the next two UFC pay-per-views with Holly Holm fighting and John Jones returning. I'll be reviewing and predicting those pay-per-views. Hope you enjoyed my Bellator 149 review. Sorry I didn't talk about the other fights, but I just wanted to talk about the two main event fights. Bye for now, everybody. Follow me on Twitter at TNAWWE Guy. And I'm also at NXT WWE Guy. Bye for now.